Hey there, Coach Sean here. I got a question today from a member talking about intermittent fasting and more specifically, what ratios that I think were best suited for her. She was talking about 24-hour fast versus 16 versus 8. There's a lot of different strategies out there, a lot of different methods, and all of them most likely work. It's all dependent on the individual. I'm going to give a very brief summary of what intermittent fasting is. This is basically the window at which you're not eating and the window that you are eating. So, for example, when we go to bed at night, let's say we go to bed at 10, obviously you don't eat in the middle of the night. So, between 10 and 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, you are fasting, right? This is a natural thing that we already do. The basic concept is we extend the period of the fast for 6, 8, 10 hours. And then we have an opportunity or a window to eat. That's the basic premise. And a lot of people do this for all kinds of different reasons over the globe. So it's not a new thing. Hormonal regulation, mental clarity, better energy, a time saver as what I use it for that. And of course, fat loss, which is the most common motivating factor for people that want to do intermittent fasting. They want to shed a few inches. It's flexible, it's very unique to the individual, and most people can do it. Now, people with eating disorders probably should stay away from this. They should probably seek out, medical advice, like actual dietary strategies that can be monitored, right? So you want to think safety here. Your level of experience with nutrition is a huge factor as well. If it's done improperly, there could be some hormonal cascades that happen that just aren't really beneficial, right? It'll work against you versus working for you. So it's been my experience that fasting has been really good. I'm going to actually recommend a few reading materials at the end of the video. But basically the answer is it all depends. And I'm going to give you one example of sort of a bad example of what happened with me and a member of mine years ago. We were talking about intermittent fasting, and I had suggested to do the window of, I think it was 16 and 8. But I guess she had read about the 24 hours fast and how obviously the more aggressive your approach, the idea is the more noticeable the results are going to be. Well, the problem was this girl was very active. She trained a lot, but she was very healthy. She decided to do a 24-hour fast the same weekend. She had a baseball tournament, and it was the summer. It was just brutal. She was a very smart girl, a sweetheart, really great, hardworking girl, but that was not a smart decision, right? So I take a little bit of responsibility for that. So anytime a fasting question comes to me, I really try to tread carefully. So if you want to experiment with 24-hour fasts, you want to set yourself up for success. You want to sandwich that in between a normal day, a normal eating day at first. And you definitely don't want to be training that day. You don't want to be lifting weights that day. Not at first. Okay, you want to sort of dip your toes in the water and see how you're responding. And be honest with yourself as well. Lots of water that day. You can have black coffee or tea with nothing in it, right? Liquids, it's good. But be smart about it. Don't try to tackle the world that day. It's just not smart. If you do well that day, you can add 1 or 2 of those in at your week, but monitor yourself. And again, you don't want to go balls to the walls with your training or other activities, okay? A better approach might be 2 days in a row of intermittent fasting, so not eating until about 3 or 4 in the afternoon. This is what I do a lot of the times. And I even train on an empty stomach, but then when I eat, I go to town. And there's an order to what I do as well that I'll explain in a bit. But you just start it with maybe 3 or 4 days of the week. Dip your toes in. It depends on what your goal is. It depends on what level of experience you have as well. When it comes to foods, though, no matter what strategy you are going to do and experiment with, there's a couple staples. Whole foods have to be 80 to 90% of your diet. Whole foods that are nutritious, that are nutrient dense, and that are going to agree with you and add value to your body and your life. Okay? You got to prioritize proteins, especially if you're training. You got to prioritize healthy fats, and carbohydrates are awesome. I'm not going to tell you to stay away from those, but you want to time that after your training. So things like rice, like bagels, like oatmeal, like quinoa, you want to time that so after your training for the most part, or control those portions for the most part. Okay, it's not that they're bad foods or good foods. The tendency to overdo it on carbohydrates, myself included, is very, very high. So you want to tread lightly with that. That's all. And those are kind of staples. Did I mention water? Down water. You know, lots of water, copious amounts of water throughout the day. Try to sip water throughout your day. Even if you can't or you're not thirsty, try to get into that habit because it's very, very important. It's very beneficial. Those are staples that no matter what strategy you're using, you want to keep those in mind. Okay? There's a couple of really good books on the subject here. The first one here, The Everything Guide to Intermittent Fasting. Who's this by? Lindsay Boyers. Great resource. I recommend it. Second book I want to talk about is, I don't have it anymore. I actually lent it out to a client years ago. I never got it back. It's called The Warrior Diet by Ori Hofmekler. Hofmekler, I think that's how you pronounce it. Great resource. It was actually my first introduction to intermittent fasting, or basically what he describes is strategic under-eating throughout the day and then strategic overeating at night. And no matter what your clock is, if you're a shift worker or something, you can apply this strategy, and he explains in great detail in that book. It's a great thing. Me personally, I've had tremendous results and tremendous benefits, really, really good experience with the Warrior Diet, or my take on the Warrior Diet. So the next book I want to recommend is my first one, which you can get as a PDF completely free if you're on Instagram. Go to @SeanStrengthCoach, link in bio, and you can download that as a PDF copy of it totally for free. Then the nutrition section, I explained to you what my take on the Warrior Diet. Okay, so that's some information for you. Hopefully that helps. Just be smart, use common sense, and basically don't go balls to the walls with any approach at first. Dip your toes in the water, adapt to it. Things take time. Okay, all the best. Talk to you soon.